Welcome to the Local Business Show. Seth Green is a nationally recognized marketer who is the nation's foremost authority on growing local businesses through direct response marketing podcasts, and the only person to be nominated 3 times for the GKIC Dan Kennedy Marketer of the Year Award. Seth will be joined by a capable cohort of co-hosts who are each local business marketing experts in their own right. On the podcast, Seth and his co-hosts brings together small business owners and other local business authorities to share with you their inspiring stories of how they started their local business, how they serve their local business clients, how they grow their local business, and how you can too. And now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Local Business Show, the podcast that brings together some of the best business minds. I'm your host, Jeff Ostroff. Today, we're going to be speaking with Laura Bedal. Laura is the founder and owner of Laura Bedal Accounting Solutions, which is based in Georgetown, Ontario. Laura is a CPA who has dedicated much of her 20-year career to working for private businesses. She focuses on helping management use financial results to find ways to improve their company's operations. And she always tries to be more than just an accountant for her business partners. Before we begin speaking with Laura, I thought it was important that I mention that her accounting firm was recently recognized in the Georgetown Reader's Choice Awards. Laura, congratulations on that great achievement, and welcome to the Local Business Show.
Oh, thanks so much, Jeff. I appreciate it, and I am so excited to be here.
Yes, we've got a lot for you to share with people. Now, before we delve into your business, Laura, I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing with our audience just a few words about what it means to be recognized by a Reader's Choice Award in Georgetown.
Sure. So from a personal standpoint, it's touching. It's incredibly touching because it means that somebody that I worked with took the time out of their day to go log into a site and to pick me out of several categories. But basically what a Reader's Choice Award, it's just that. The community goes into various service providers. In my particular case, it was income tax, it was bookkeeping, it was accounting, and I personally got recognized as the accountant, one of the accountants that you want to deal with in town. So it's very personal. It's people saying, I got great service, and this person is who you want to know when you need that kind of service. So it's a true honor. My original goal was, if 5 years into my business would be a good time to start maybe earning these awards. And my business was 18 months old when it got its first award. So it's absolutely touching from a personal standpoint that people took that time, and very rewarding from a business standpoint to know that I'm on a good track.
That is very impressive. You're 3.5 years ahead of yourself. So congratulations, Laura. That says an awful lot. Now, let's talk a little bit, Laura, about your background. How did you get started in accounting?
Yeah, so I was that weird kid in high school who knew what she wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an accountant. So, I went to university and all that good stuff and got my first job at Unilever. And if you had asked university me, I would have told you that I was going to go out on my own and I was going to be a consultant. But, life took over. I also got married and had kids. So I stayed with the big companies. I worked with Unilever for a while. They sold the plant. I stayed with that plant for a while that I was working with. Then I ended up at ICO Industries, which is a fairly large family company here in Canada. They service the whole country, roofing shingles. Went on to Sofina Foods, again, another big Canadian private held company, and learned all the tricks of how corporations do things and how the big boys do things. Kind of gave up for a little while on my dream of being the consultant until the pandemic hit, and then I moved on from there. But that big company experience really ended up being what I needed, because those big tax strategies, those ways of approaching your business in a smart way, and to really look at your financials, not just for how much tax am I going to have to pay, but what can I do to operate better. That experience was fantastic in those large companies. And now to bring it to small companies where, maybe they don't have the budget for a big financial team, But my experience means that some of the problems that are blowing their mind, I've seen it before. And because I've seen it before, we can manage it and handle it in an efficient way. And instead of spending years and years and years struggling with something, or thousands of dollars that those small businesses don't have, I can point them in a direction. It is absolutely rewarding.
I'll bet it is. And certainly, having spent so many years working for big companies, I'm sure that you did get to see an awful lot. Let's now talk a little bit, Laura, about the business that you own, how you got started in it, and how you serve your clients in a way that might be different than perhaps other accounting firms serve their clients.
Yeah, so the pandemic hit is how I got started. I was working happily at Sofina Foods, and probably on my own wouldn't have left, if I'm honest, right? It was nice and secure, you've got benefits and all that good stuff. But they decided that because of the pandemic, maybe they should try to do things without me. And so my role got eliminated, which was devastating for about 2 days, I think. And then I started to remember original me, university me, the one that said I wanted to help people and I wanted to, be that consultant, that business partner to the smaller businesses. And I thought, if not now, when? So I talked to the husband, talked to the kids, and I said, I'm going to maybe be a bit selfish and start this business, and let's see how it plays out. And it's been absolutely rewarding to me. But what I think makes me different to my clients, it's a couple of things. One is I don't sound like an accountant when I'm talking to them, right? When they come to me, I'm not talking about P&Ls and cash flows and EBITDAs and stuff like that. I don't do that to them. I talk about, are you better or are you worse? Are you hitting your goals or are you not hitting your goals? And when we do that, it's a business conversation. And I really think that's what makes me different than some of the other firms. I mean, I can charge you a lot of money and I can talk a lot of language that you may or may not understand. Your tax return will still get filed. You'll still be compliant, but will you have gotten anything from it? And I kind of liken it to, when you go to the doctor and they prescribe something, there's questions you're going to ask. You're going to ask them about side effects, and you're going to ask them about how long do I have to take that and what should I expect? But you don't necessarily ask what's in the pill, right? You don't need to know that specifically, right?
Right.
So it's kind of the same idea, is where I take the time to say, here's what I see, here's what I think we should do, here's how you can know what questions to ask me, your other partners, however you're doing. But it's not necessarily important for you to know whether I'm looking at a trial balance or a profit and loss statement.
I hear you on that, because I really don't want to know about that stuff either. I'm not an accountant. By the way, I must say, I think it's wonderful that you are amongst, from my experience, the few people who knew what they wanted to do when they were in college. That's a great benefit that you had. Let me just ask you, have you heard from any of your clients that they appreciate the fact that you are speaking to them in plain English and able to have this conversation rather than talking about the esoterica of accounting?
So that is probably the biggest feedback I get. And I get it right from the discovery sessions. When people call and they say, we might need your service, and I ask them what they need. And, they talk about, well, I don't know how to describe it, and I try to help them through that. And that is the number one. I have this dog training company, and they're one of my success stories. Was a very small business over a year ago with this dream to grow. I mean, she says, but I don't know how I'm going to grow. And I said, well, let's take some time and let's figure it out. We recently incorporated her. We're going to have some calls next week to talk about some financing strategies. And what she keeps saying is, I don't think I'd be here. And I'm like, well, you would have found something. You're like a lot of this is your entrepreneurship. All I'm doing is helping you, create a path, right? I have another client. She's an interior designer. She started her business on her maternity leave. She just kind of had the baby and thought, oh, I really don't want to go back to work. I want to do my own thing. And she must reach out to me 2 or 3 times a week. She recently did a Google review that basically says, I wouldn't have a business if it weren't for her. You have to call her. It's a rewarding thing that you never got, like I didn't get. Maybe other people do. But in corporate, when they promote you and they give you these extra titles and more money, lots more money, but
Yes.
all these things, you feel appreciated, but it's not the same. Like I actually feel like I'm touching people's lives. And I think that's different than when I was in corporate. When I worked at Unilever, let's be honest, when we were making a whole bunch of Dove soap, yeah, it felt good when you went to someone's house and you saw a Dove sitting in their bathroom and you think, oh, that's good. My product has made it to my friend's house. But it's not the same. It's really not the same. But, having somebody, and that's where the Reader's Choice like tied right into that, because, for people to call me or for people to, when you're at home scrolling through your internet, that's your time. And for people to stop and say, I gotta let people know Laura is fantastic. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like that.
It's got to be a great feeling, and I can actually relate to that. The best job I had in my first career, I'm in my second career, Laura, was the first job when I worked for the Medicare program in the United States, and I was directly helping people out individually. And after that in my career, it was not like that. So I can totally relate to that. Now, your business has been growing, and you've only been doing this in your business for about 1.5 years, right?
Correct.
So do you think that's a key reason why your business is growing?
So I'm definitely growing because, it's a new business. It has to be growing. Otherwise, I can't keep doing this. So there's a certain incentive that I need to do that. But this last month, I have had, I think, if I check, I'm going to say 12 discovery calls in 1 month. My reputation is getting out there, and I've stopped kind of promoting myself. I'm letting my work speak for itself now. And that's it's a change over the last 2 or 3 months where I'm like, if I keep reminding people I'm out here, I'm not going to be able to keep up with the growth. So, it's still just me here. And I'm actually sitting back and contemplating, do I bring somebody on? How do I make sure that they keep with my values and stuff? So it's a bit of a tug of war with me in terms of how I'm, going to keep up with that growth. But my growth now is very organic. It's very, people are talking about me, referring me. And even today I had to go by our local Chamber of Commerce to drop some documents off. And they said, you are a buzz. Like, they're like, we're not even trying to find out about you, and we're finding out about you. And it's a good thing we already know about you. So it's been phenomenal.
I think I'm going to move to Georgetown. This is exciting. I'm getting excited. Let's shift to a more serious subject.
Okay.
And you alluded to it before. The pandemic. How has it affected your business, which apparently was born out of the pandemic? And how do you see it affecting so far your clients' business?
Yeah. So obviously my business came out of the pandemic. I'm a pandemic baby. I was joking with my mom last week that she always claims she's a baby boomer. I'm like, I'm a pandemic something. There's going to be a term. I don't know what it is.
Yes.
But yeah, my business started with the pandemic, which was scary, truly was scary, because I didn't even know if businesses were going to survive. And I was taking on clients who I had no idea what their futures were going to be. And when Ontario was putting such lockdowns and restrictions on businesses, obviously their revenues were declining. And I think for my industry, for the finance people, we had to stay on top of things, because if there were government programs, we had to know about it. And not only did we have to know about it, but we had to figure out how to get that money back into our clients' hands. So There was definitely a lot of innovation and figuring it out. And honestly, collaboration too. And that's one thing about, maybe it's just Georgetown, Ontario, but the other accountants in my community, we're competition technically, but we reach out and we help each other. And when I won that Reader's Choice Awards, the number of accountants who sent me emails saying, way to go, even though they were up for the same awards. Like, you know what? Like, it wasn't how could you win it? I should have won it. It was good for you. Like, we're proud of you and we're going to work together. And we've done that. A group of us got on a webinar type lunch and learn thing where we talked about the different programs, and we each picked a program and we talked about it just to educate the local business. 3 competitors working together to help the local business community. It was inspiring. And I was so happy to be proud of it. And it really was. We pulled together, and I have seen some businesses who aren't going to make it, and it's tragic, and I feel for them. But so many also found new ways to do things. And we kind of took our gloves off and said, it's not about you versus me and who they pick for their service provider. We're all going to work together to get these guys through. And it's been inspiring.
Let me follow up on that. That sounds great. That collaboration, I think, is terrific. Your experience, Laura, was that you were let go and you started a business. What about the people who you're helping now? Are you seeing people whose businesses were also born because of the pandemic?
So definitely. Of my client base, probably, I don't know, 25 to 30% were either just ideas before the pandemic or kind of like a side gig that they decided to turn into a full-time gig. I think the pandemic inspired a lot of entrepreneurship, admittedly. Like, a lot of people are sitting back saying, well, my corporate job or my regular job doesn't understand that I have childcare issues now because the daycares are all closed or whatever. So it forced people to be entrepreneurial. And I think it gave people perhaps a window of time to work on some of these. So I have quite a few clients who are side gigs trying to go full time. Some of them, admittedly, in the last month or so, they've said, well, it's probably going to remain a side gig. I'm not sure I can make it full time. And we've had those conversations about, well, maybe it's more of a 3-year plan for you rather than an 18-month plan. So there's definitely been varying degrees of how people have been able to pivot and change. But what I'm seeing is entrepreneurship is at an all-time high. And when everyone talks about, the great resignation that's going on in the world right now, where everybody's resigning to do something else, businesses like mine, well, we're doing not so bad as a result of it, because these people are coming up saying, I'm going to start my own business and I don't know what I'm doing. Please help me.
Yeah. And,
it's working out well for me.
It's working out well for you. And what I could also see is you have an additional benefit that you offer that a lot of other accounting firms don't have to offer, ironically, because you started your business around the same time that they did, so you can relate. You can relate to them, right?
Yeah, and we're going through this together and we're sharing milestones. And I have a few businesses where, like, you would think I'm in their family list, right? Like, if they get a big milestone in their business, they're reaching out to me. And, in an official standpoint, I'm their service provider, but we're tight. And it's partly because you were born in the pandemic. And I'm telling you, I got it. If I can get the phrase figured out, it's going to be like baby boomer, but way better. but there's like the pandemic boomers, right? The people who just woke up and said, I'm going to be entrepreneurial and I'm going to go for it full force. And we've banded together, and admittedly a chunk, like I said, of probably about a quarter of my client base, that's their story.
That's their story. You've sort of touched on this, but now I'd like you to really zoom in on it, no pun intended. Yeah. And that is the marketing approach that you use to get the word out about your accounting and related services. Can you share with us what are some of the techniques that you use?
So nothing I learned in university.
I love it.
So when I was in school and they talked about marketing and strategies and all that stuff, okay, so I'm an accountant for a reason. And in part, it's because I'm relatively introverted. If I'm talking about things I know, right, my business, I can talk, right?
Sure.
So it's okay to do a podcast about this, but I'm not that person who necessarily needs to be putting themselves out in front of people and saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, right? That's not who I am.
Sure.
So marketing was very intimidating to me because I thought, don't I have to kind of go out there and say, here I am, here I am, here I am. And how do you do that? So I took a very kind of quiet introductory approach. I thought, well, I'll just reach out to people I know who have businesses and then work my way up to a big marketing campaign. And I had visions of, traditional print ads, and maybe I was going to be like the real estate agents and put notepads in your mailbox, and I had all these ideas, and I never got there, because what I did was I did a little social media, and I found that if you have an Instagram page, as an example, for your business, people will follow it and they check you out. And because, as I said, like, I speak like a person, a business person, a regular person, not an accountant, that comes across in my social media. And what I find is that businesses were kind of sitting and lulling. And then when they finally do reach out for that discovery call, they're like, I have been following you on Instagram for like 6 months. And I had this one life coach, and she's one of my pandemic stories, right? Like, she was in the pandemic and she didn't want to stay in her sales job, and she was going to start this life coaching business. And she's like, I've been watching you for months on Instagram. And she says, I just like your approach, and you seem to know what you're talking about. And I'm like, well, I absolutely know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And I'm glad you like my approach, because it's authentic. It's me. Like, when you're in a corporate job, sometimes you aren't quite yourself, right? You're very formal. You're very, following the rules. There's a policy, there's a procedure, and whether you 100% love it, you do it, right? You put on your smile and you do it. In my business, if I don't want to do it, I'll help refer you. Because like I said, we're developing this accountants network here where we just want to help the businesses. So if it's not my area of expertise, I'm happy to introduce you. But that Instagram, that social media, I haven't done TikTok yet. I've heard some people say I should do some TikTok videos. I'm not quite there yet.
Okay.
But, and I've gone on, and when I won the Reader's Choice Award, as an example, I got on just to say thank you. Not, some post that says thank you. It was me. And I can't call everybody and thank you, but I'm going to thank you. And those types of being real and being yourself and putting yourself out there a little bit. And, I challenge you, go ahead, check out my Instagram page, LB Accounting Solutions. But I'm in hoodies a lot, right? I'm, not dressed like an accountant. Everyone wants me to post my Halloween costume, and I've got some creative ideas that I'm going to post on the weekend. But it's authenticity. So it doesn't feel like marketing, but it's getting my name out there and it's working.
That sounds great. Now, you mentioned TikTok and videos, and you're not doing that. Do you do videos, though?
I have done a couple small ones. Last Christmas, I actually got my clients to help me with one where they all shot a segment. So I wasn't in it as much, but I rewrote the words to the 12 Days of Christmas. And it was, instead of my true love gave to me, it was my accountant gave to me. And I had all my clients talk about what I had given them. So, it was like, I can't remember, 8 tax returns, 7. So we blended that video together. But like I said, with the Reader's Choice, I got on and did a video to say, here's I won, and I want to thank you, and I don't want you to read it. I want you to hear it. And I've done some webinar type stuff, and I'm looking to do some more of those, because I think, to the point where you can teach someone something. And look, you can do a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live or whatever. You can be on video for 10 minutes talking about something that's relevant. You don't have to charge for it. And maybe that's where I'm not going to be, as strong of a business leader over time, because I don't necessarily feel like everything is chargeable. But, if a crazy new tax thing comes out and all the local businesses are going, what do we have to do? Why wouldn't I jump on the screen and say, hey guys, here's what they're really saying. And if you need to understand more, give me a call, right? So I think in that sense, it's going to be marketing, and I am putting myself out there, which is a big deal because I'm basically introverted, right? So I don't want to be on the video.
Yeah, I understand that. It's not like you're in PR. So I definitely understand, but you're being compelled to do that, and you're doing it, and it's working for you, which is a perfect segue for me to ask you, Laura, what are some insights that you can share with other accounting professionals, bookkeeping people, which of course may be applicable to anybody, from your experiences, which involve your current business, but I'm sure you learned some things as well going into the business because of your years of experience working for bigger companies. What are some of the key insights?
I think I said this earlier. When I was university me, I wanted to do what I'm doing today. And I was scared to do it. I 100% scared to do it. I didn't think I had anything to offer. And what I learned is all that time in corporate and doing the things that I needed to learn actually provided me that basis of what I need to learn. And I think, one of the things about accounting is it doesn't really change that much. Tax rules change, there's little thing, but the basics are the same.
Sure.
But I actually think we're in a revolutionary time for accounting right now, because we've learned that we can do this virtually. And we've learned that we can actually create a more efficient way of handling clients. And whereas once upon a time, if you owned an accounting business, if the client wanted to see you, you had to jump in your car, drive however far, probably put on a suit, sit down with them and talk about their problem, and then go away, maybe come up with a proposal, come back. And now it's a lot more real time, more fluid. I get a phone call, I get, this Zoom technology has really changed things, and it's making the accounting profession more personal, which is in many ways better. If a cat jumps into my lap while I'm talking to you on the phone, that's nobody even blinks at that anymore.
Wow.
So the whole accounting field is evolving. And I've said to my husband a couple times, I wish I had done this when my kids were smaller. It would have given me more time with them, but I wasn't ready. Like, the reality is I wasn't ready. And I needed the pandemic. I needed this technology. I needed things to change in a way, but to take my big corporate experience and teach these small businesses how to get wins that really those corporations I worked for probably took them 20, 30 years to figure out. And it was long before I worked for them. It's amazing. And I think as information is becoming more available to people, and you get more people like myself saying, I don't want to be in a corporation anymore, and you're getting all that entrepreneurship, I think we're going to see a lot of change. I think the world is changing, and certainly the accounting profession is changing.
I would agree, as are many other professions. And this business that you spoke about, Laura, of being able to reach people through Zoom also opens up the boundary lines of what a business can be, which is
right.
Tremendous as well. So it sounds like you perhaps didn't believe that you could do this at some point. And that's almost an insight in itself, is that you may not think you can do it, and maybe the time isn't right just yet, but you may surprise yourself in that you can do it. It just may not be the right time. But don't think that you can't do it. It's just perhaps you got to have the courage to do it, which you did. I want to ask you one other question, actually maybe two other questions. One is, what do you like best about what you're doing at your firm?
It's really about touching real people. It's helping real people. It's not this anonymous shareholder or, like my Dove soap example, right? These anonymous consumers. These are real people, and they're real people mostly in my general town, but slowly I'm expanding beyond my town, which is crazy to me, but they're real people. And they have real problems. And I finished the day knowing whether I had wins or losses that day. And it's a very different measurement than what I had before. And I love that. And some of the work I do is very, press buttons, get work done, and the work is churning out, and that's fine. And it gets done. But there's a purpose, right? Like, I know there's a family at the other end of that who needs to be profitable, or, they need that income tax refund that they didn't think. And I remember I had one client last year at income tax season. She was petrified that she was going to owe $1 million. I don't know why. I'm like, you didn't even earn $1 million. You can't pay more tax than you earned. And, talked her through it. And she was just panicking, and she wasn't slated to be done her taxes for a few days because of when I had scheduled her. And I thought, I got to help this woman. So I put everything aside. I said to my family, I said, okay, I need a few more minutes. And I pulled together a tax return, and she was getting a refund. She didn't even owe money. So I reached out to her and I said, so I did your taxes early. And she's like, okay, how bad is it? And I'm like, you're getting back money. And she's like, oh, how did you do that? And I'm like, that's why you give me the big bucks. But, it's that kind of thing. Like, I helped that family. That family was worried about money, and she went to bed that night not worrying about it. And it's that kind of personal touch that is just what's driving me to keep getting up in the morning, keep doing this.
It makes sense. There's such a human touch, personal touch element to what you're doing. As we conclude, what I would like you to do, Laura, is say just a little bit more about what your services are, because you don't just do accounting, I don't think, right? And give us again the spelling of your last name and the name of your business, and again where you're located and all that stuff.
Okay, so all right. So I'm Laura Bedal, Accounting Solutions. So Laura, traditional spelling Laura, Bedal, Bedal. So small business accounting and bookkeeping is kind of my main core business. But really what I try to do is a little bit more than just accounting and bookkeeping. It's more of a business consulting. It's helping people manage their hurt points. Where are you hurting in your business? Is it cash flow? Is it, just overall profitability? Are you charging enough? Are you not charging enough? And I like to show the business owners their, what I call their KPIs, their key performance indicators. And it's not the same for every business, right? And so many people think it's profit, and it's not always profit. Sometimes it's a growth number or whatever. So I spend time trying to really understand your business. What are your goals? And let's create plans to get to goals. And what I've said to so many clients is a dream and a goal. The only difference is a date. So let's put a date on it. And once we do that, then we start saying, okay, now how do we get to that date? And, my own example, Reader's Choice Awards, I put the date on it 5 years. I knocked that one out of the park. So now I need to go on to my next goal. So that's what I do. I do some income taxes because I think it needs to be full service, but really it's about helping you as the business owner understand your financial information in your business language.
Okay.
That's what I do.
That's what you do, and you're in Georgetown, Ontario. Yes. Laura, this has been great. Congratulations on how successful your business is already. I can feel the enthusiasm, the excitement. The award demonstrates that you're doing a great job. So everybody, we're going to say goodbye now to Laura Bedal. Thank you so much for being with us.
And thank you.
Thank you. Well, take care, everybody. This has been the Local Business Show.